right
Ready to
there.
start.
I think.
I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarland. Today is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. Here with my colleague and friend, co-hosting today, James Trice. He's the president and CEO of the Public Policy Project. Brother James, how you doing?
I'm well, Brother Al. How are you today?
I'm well as well. Thank you again for hanging out with me today. You and I were on yesterday. Let me start off by asking you any impressions of the president's State of the Union last night. What's top of mind? What struck you in your gut? What do we need to know and think about that performance last night?
Well, thank you, Al. Well, first of all, you're right. When you say that performance, it was a performance, and I tried not to pay attention because I didn't think I was going to learn anything new than what he's always have done and always have said. That being, I glanced at it back and forth. I was busy in the middle doing some other things, but I said, let me listen to some of what he has to say. And some of what he said pertaining to people who've been victims of crimes, particularly he alleged by immigrants. And it struck me the amount of detail in gore that it seemed to be getting off on just this violence, right, and gratuitous violence. And it was interesting because if I were one of the victims, I really think that he was just really making the matters worse, re-traumatizing me with what took place. And so some of the victims, though, who survived, but some of the gore in which he talked, and it was like to me it was crazy. He was all over the place. Again, some of what I've heard, he lied several times, which he always is. And it was just interesting that he was saying that how he and increase religion in some way, shape, or form. This individual is delusional and narcissistic, and he's a straight up he's a tyrant, man. And so I didn't listen to the whole speech from beginning to end, but I didn't think I was going to hear anything new, and I didn't hear anything new. He just continued the same reframe of his narcissism and of his dictatorial, tyrannic efforts to oppress marginalized communities. Anybody that's not white and affluent, let me just say.
Mm-hmm. Uh, well, it seems to me that he's still laying the groundwork, creating a narrative, creating a way to normalize this capacity to reject anything that we would call movement toward freedom and the expression of the truest form of democracy that democracy philosophy can produce. I think we've been on that arc from the beginning when the Declaration of Democracy was made in the midst of a community that also embraced chattel slavery. Our mission from day one has been to move the country and humanity towards the potential, the beauty, the possibility of democracy being real. And it seems to me that President Trump is trying to normalize the retraction, the retreat movement away from the idea of genuine equity ownership. I mean, for him to say, oh, DEI is dead, that was a direct shot, I think, to and against Black people. And I think his efforts to try to make the Democrats stand up when he made a statement saying that he was, first of all, upset that on several of his statements, only Republicans stood, Democrats didn't. He wanted to chastise the Democrats and really call them out for not being American, for not supporting. And he tried to test that by saying anybody who believes that America is for the land of the free, and I'm paraphrasing this, but kind of a patriotic pablum. And at the end of it, and that we're against illegal aliens, stand up. Well, the Republicans jumped up, the knee-jerk genuflex, right, at the Trump altar, and the Democrats wisely just ignored him, sat down, and said, we're not playing this game with you. And I think that they were right in doing that. I pulled up some notes here, trying to get some reactions from people. And the note says that Black conservatives, particularly those affiliated with Project 21, responded positively to Trump's 2026 address. Two items, 2 bullet points. They said this guy named Michael Austin, he's identified as a Project 21 ambassador, praised the administration's focus on inflation reduction, calling stable prices a moral and economic necessity. He framed the speech as addressing whether Americans can once again afford the American dream. And that state comes out of an organization called the National Center for Public Policy Research. And I'm not sure if that's do you know that organization at all?
I've heard of it. I have heard.
I don't know if it's progressive or conservative. The other point is that it says other Black conservative leaders emphasize support for the speech's priorities on crime and national security, describing them as aligned with their longstanding policy positions. But by contrast, what I call more typical Black reactions include a couple. One that was notable is that of Representative Al Green, the Texas Democrat, who held a sign up saying, "Black people aren't apes," during the address. Well, as it turned out, you may have seen it, he was escorted out of the chamber, and making up the second year in a row that he's been kicked out during a Trump congressional address. Right. So what does this mean? I think it means that Black conservatives largely praise the speech and its economic message, while Black progressives use the moment to highlight concerns about racial justice and political rhetoric. And this contrast underscores the diverse political viewpoints in the Black community. Sometimes you don't hear that a lot in the national discourse. So those are some thoughts about that from my listening and watching. I thought he uses people and uses trinkets and awards, like handing out the Congressional Medal of Honor and other presidential citations, and doing all these things with the hockey team, the men's hockey team, welcoming them into the chamber and having them stand up, et cetera, and saying he was going to invite the women, and that on tape he said if he didn't invite them, he'd have had a lawsuit against him for being sexist. I saw a show on TV this morning where the women were saying, "Guess what? We're not coming." Right. Because you mentioned us as an afterthought. We won the gold first. You didn't call us, didn't hear from you. The men win. You praise them directly with the call. Then you say, "Oh yeah, and we're going to invite the ladies too." Well, that means you had no intention to respect and know what our contributions to our country and to athletics are. So that's interesting. So I'm glad to see them stand up. I think that they deserve praise for that.
Right.
Any other thoughts? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, to that piece, I'm gonna go back on the Black progressives take on this speech. But this piece with this the hockey team, the women's hockey team, what I heard also is that he went further to say if he didn't invite the women, he'd think he would be impeached, and they started laughing.
That's what. He did say that.
He said, "Well, I would be impeached if I didn't invite the women," as if I have to invite them. So I'm glad. I applaud the women for standing up on that and doing that and not showing up. And then some of the men who really support women should not attend either. Some of those hockey men. But let's see what happens. Let me go back on this piece about this the response to Trump's message by conservative African American conservative people who support Donald Trump, I'm assuming, it strikes me that they were more concerned about the economics and financial pieces, and the black progressive, I guess, response was they were more concerned about humanity and human decency, right? And it's interesting how black folks who have internalized this idea of what white people believe is our place in our station in society have, they tend to look at things and overlook issues like Donald Trump depicting the Obamas on the bodies of monkeys, and the things that he said about black people, and the things that he said about civil rights, that civil rights was somehow unfair to white people, and that trying to get rid of Black History Month and trying to get rid of MLK Day, and said that he invented Juneteenth, and all of these things that he has done, right? All of his history of racism and hate for black folk. I mean, he hates black people, and they overlook this for economic reasons, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about them. He doesn't, And so this last thing I want to say is that people look at this and they, the system is not working, is falling apart. No, they wanted to operate like this. The system is designed to operate. It's not broken. I mean, when we talk about let's go back to liberty and justice and freedom, this country has never had that. It's never exhibited that. I mean, we have some similitude of it, right? We've gotten close to some form of equality. There's certain things they cannot. Well, I shudder to say that they cannot do. We've been seeing lynchings of men hung in trees, and been no answer to this. The response has been that they committed suicide. Man, that's not who black people. We're not gonna go into a public park, stand up on a tree, and hang ourselves. That does not make sense. If we're gonna kill ourselves, it's gonna be in our own home, or we're gonna take some pills or something. But we're not gonna go public, climb up in a tree, and then put the rope around us and hang ourselves. That's not going to happen. These have been lynchings, and so they want to go back to that place where this is what they were allowed to do during Jim Crow era, right? And where there's more black folks lynched during Jim Crow than during slavery, is what my understanding is. So, no, I mean we're fighting to make it be what it said in writing. We're fighting to make it be that. But they're fighting against it. They don't want it. They keep holding. They drag it. I mean, it's like a tug of war. We want to keep oppressing you, right? And the liberals, to me, are not forceful enough against this system. They're not standing up en masse, vociferously opposing this. White liberals, they're not doing enough, and that's just real. If they say they are allies, then they need to stand up more. There needs to be more of them speaking up and protesting against this oppression. And that's what needs to happen. So anyway.
I'm Al McFarland. This is the Wednesday edition of the Conversation with Al McFarland. And my colleague and co-host today is James Trice of the Public Policy Project. If you want to be in this conversation, we want you in it. I think we can put up a QR code on the screen, and you can use that to join in from any of the platforms you're on. You can see where we are. We'd love to have you in the conversation as well. I'm sending out some text, James, as we speak, to invite people to join the program. I'll keep doing that during the course of the conversation. Right. But let me pivot a little bit. My hot topic note says that 9 defendants are currently rebutting federal conspiracy charges following last month's occupation of a St. Paul church. And this case involves high-profile activists like Sister Nekima Levy Armstrong, and it's raised major First Amendment and religious freedom concerns. Let's go through that, and again, to anybody that's online, if you got comments, actually come on the program. Let's talk. And if you can't, we appreciate you just dropping your notes in the in the chat. Big Cheese, thank you. Let me just show your note here. The U.S. desperately needs a black anti-hate crime bill, and that the Democratic Party is against. So what do you mean by that? So take some time, Big Cheese, and sort of unpack that for me, okay? James, I was going to say that, let's review quickly the question of the charges against people that were protesting at the St. Paul Church. Can you kind of recall the story as best you can?
I do. And a number of them are friends of mine, particularly Nakima and Tran and others who went in there. The question that has come to me on behalf of
tell the story. What happened, first of all? Refresh the story in a elevator speech style.
Okay, well, the refresh the story is that a group of activists got wind of that one of the pastors of a church in St. Paul, I think it was the Grace Church, I think it is, or what's the name of the name? Grace Church. I may be mistaken. So if you could pull up the church name, I don't want to get this church name wrong.
It's not Grace Church. It's St. Paul. I'll get the name of it though.
Yeah, St. Paul Church, I think it is. So forgive me, Grace Church. I don't mean to bring you into this. It wasn't you. But anyway, they realized that the pastor, actually the lead pastor of this particular church, was also the lead in this ICE operation here in the Twin Cities, and in which, of course, Renee Good, a white woman, was murdered by ICE, and then Alex Preddy a few weeks later by ICE, not too far from each other, raised really national attention with ICE being here. It was a serious operation, and everybody knows this who's listening to me. And so then when they found out that this pastor was, that they decided that they were going to go to the church and really talk to him about why is he leading ICE when you're a pastor of a church, when ICE has been violating the human rights of individuals, which is a contradiction of Christ's commandments in the Word of God. Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as yourself," and do not oppress, and all of these things that God tells us and that Jesus was telling us to do. It's the operations that this ICE is conducting is antichrist. The way that they're treating people, even the whole premise of it, is to oppress the immigrant and those who are considered the minority or the marginalized, and to oppress and to commit acts of violence against these individuals. People. So anyway, they found out that this pastor was leading this church, so they decided to go and talk with him. Church service. My understanding is that they were going to talk with them, so it was church service that day. They went in and participated in the praise and worship portion of the service. And after praise and worship was over, my understanding is that the pastor made some comment. A pastor was preaching, made some comment by God, show us the error of our ways, show us what we're doing wrong, or whatever was the phrase. And then, one of the activists stood up and said, "Well, then why is your pastor leading up ICE?" And then that pastor responded with, "Shame, shame, 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 shame," until he raised the furor. And it wasn't the activists who raised that furor, he did. So they responded when they stood up and said, "Well, your pastor is the head of this ICE. You need to explain this." So anyway, and so people felt that was a violation of people's religious freedom, that they interrupted their religious freedom by going into a church, right? But let's be clear about this. ICE has went into churches. Other oppressive groups have come into our churches to violate us on a regular basis. And so...
including bombing in Birmingham and shooting at Mother Mary Church.
Yep. Bombings of the 3 little girls. And I mean, come on, we got a history of, of violence against us as we're worshiping. And so for America to now, like, wow, that's a shame on you. What it was a political response, because they confronted this pastor for his contradiction. First purporting to be a man of God, and we know what that's supposed to mean, and then oppressing the rights and freedoms of regular citizens, human beings, treating them like dirt, murdering them, approving of this, sanctioning this, um, those kinds of things. And I felt like they had a right to go in and have that conversation. But the conversation, I think, started with the pastor who told them shame, and the rest of the congregation stood up, and they were just trying to get him to explain how can he play both roles. It's impossible for him to do so.
Here are some notes about that too. I pulled up the name of the organization, the church, James. The church was called the Cities Church. It's called Cities Church in St. Paul. That's the name of it. And as we said, the protesters, including journalists and local activists, have been federally charged in connection with this January 18th protest inside Cities Church. Charges include conspiracy to violate the civil rights and violations of the FACE Act, which protects access to places of worship. And this case involves high-profile defendants like Don Lemon, the independent journalist, former CNN anchor, and Nakima Levy Armstrong, and others, all of whom have pleaded not guilty, and they're moving through the federal court proceedings. And so the charges were, it says a Cities Church parishioner filed a lawsuit against the protesters and journalists alleging disruption of worship and harm during the anti-ICE demonstration. A civil suit is separate from the federal criminal case, and it's currently active. The Department of Justice is investigating the incident, signaling potential additional federal actions depending on the findings. So that's kind of the status of that. I think we should keep watching it. I thought it was a bold and daring move on the part of Nakima Levy Armstrong. I think she was right to invite journalists to cover the event. I think Don and I think it was Georgia Fort and other journalists were right to be there to report. Reporting is a mission and a right of free and fair press. And we know that this administration is trying to suppress press freedom if you don't toe their right-wing conservative MAGA line. So that's kind of the update. Love to have your comments. Let me put another comment up from our friend Big Cheese. And he says, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and the Congressional Black Caucus and NAACP have done nothing to respond to the hate crimes in the U.S. being committed against Black people. And he goes on to say that the Democratic Party has prioritized illegal immigrants over the Black community and American citizens, and that the party is on the path of losing another presidential election in 2028. I disagree with all of that, but I appreciate you sharing that point of view. James, why don't you respond? I don't know that that's true, that Barack and Kamala and the caucus have done nothing to respond to Black hate crimes. Is that something that makes sense to you?
No, I mean, it doesn't. But here's the issue. I think what people expected, and I've heard this before, that people expected when Barack Obama became president of the United States, that he was going to make a declarative statement that he was here for Black people, that he was going to make a declarative statement and a declarative effort to say, I'm going to do things specifically for Black people. And I think they expected Kamala Harris to do the same, and make some intentional efforts to say this is for Black people. Now, could he have done more? Could Kamala have done more? I think so. But I think they tried to do what they could do in the context of the regime, the system that we live in. They've done the best they could do. And remember, they were in when anytime any elected official, and this is the reason why I haven't run for office, is because any Black folk who is an elected official, you operate within this machine. The machine is set up to oppress, because the machine is based in this and it's built on money, right? It's built on that. It's a capitalist society, and capitalism in itself of itself that says that someone else enjoys the freedom of your labor, or the someone else enjoys more the fruits of your labor than you do. That's what capitalism sets up. It sets up those have and have not. It sets that system up because it wouldn't be capitalism. But I want to say that I think they've done what they could do in the context of the system that we live in. Could they have done other things more? Yes, I think so. But let me share this with you real quick. And this is a contention for you and whoever else that says, I'm not going to vote. Let's be clear. None of our elected officials are perfect. None of them, right? And all of us have flaws. All of us as human beings have flaws. And none of the Democratic folks are perfect as well. But the issue is, what we as Black people have had to do is choose between Lucifer and Satan when it comes down to elections. Many, many, many times. We have to choose between the person who's going to, we got to choose the person who's going to do us the least harm. Not that they're not going to do any harm, but the least harm. But we have to weigh which one is better, which one, and what I mean by better is better as they can be in a system that we live in. And so we have to choose that. Let me say this. Voting will always be inadequate in a representative democracy based in on the Constitution that serves the elite, the interest of the elite. Again, I say that again. Voting will always be inadequate in a representative democracy based on the Constitution that serves the interests of the elite. It just will always be. But it is a tool. We could put some impediments in place for them. So don't sit at home. You may not like the Democratic candidate for office, but is he or she at least going to do better for you than the Republican one? And I'm not telling you to vote Republican or Democrat. Let me just be clear with you, because I've been a registered lobbyist, and I've seen Democrats, DFL, try to pass bills that are detrimental to Black people. And I've seen Republicans, conservatives, move bills that I think benefit Black people. So we need to weigh which one. Don't sit at home, because what's going to happen is you're going to get the worst, right? That's what's going to happen. And you co-sign for the worst that there is. And so lastly, let me just say, just because we vote for candidates, just because we vote for people to represent us in this quote unquote representative democracy, don't mean they have all the answers. It doesn't mean that they have it all. We have to push them from the outside. We have to hold them accountable. We have to be in their faces. We have to demonstrate, even though we voted, we say, hold on, we voted for you, so you got to work for us. And we need to be in front of them all the time. Don't just vote for them and sit at home and say, oh, we good, they got this. No, vote and then say, oh, you ran on this, sister, brother. Didn't you say you were going to do this? You're not doing what we've called you to do. So we're confronting you. Confront them just like you would somebody who you oppose. Do the same thing, but make them do the work, because they work for you. So I just want to say that.
Well, listen, you're 1,000% right on. Okay, let me.
I don't think I can hear you, Al.
How about now? How about now? Can you hear me now? So, are you able to hear me now, James? Not yet. Okay. Let me.
So we can't hear you, Al.
Okay. Want to refresh?
Or maybe they can't hear me.
No, I hear you. Okay, but I don't. I'm not sure if the audience hears you or not. Can you hear me now? So let me enter Sage. Yeah, I may have to. Yeah. How about now? Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
I don't know if it was you or me.
Yeah, same thing. I was thinking that, I watched Roland Martin last night. Great program. He had a number of luminaries on reacting to the State of the Union, and Roland himself gave a master class, which you just gave a minute ago as well, that invites us to be very particular, very specific, very planful in ensuring and moving our interests forward through the electoral process. And he said, he sort of destroyed those who say, oh, Democrats, Republicans, we shouldn't do anything because we have no power. That's not the answer. And he made it real plain by saying, you know what, if you are not happy, you can't always say what they haven't done in Washington, what the Black Caucus hasn't done, what anybody hasn't done. You should say, what is it that I want to be done? And then go to your house that you live in and see how the people you live with feel about the things you say you want done. You get a sense of consensus in your own particular physical household, your wife, your parents, your kids, your drug, whoever you with. And then how about talking to the neighbor to the left, the neighbor to the right, and the neighbor across the street? Share with them your thoughts, your feelings, and what you're not happy with, and what you think we can do together to create more awareness. And if you do that, how about the rest of the people on your block? And how about the block club after that? And how about the street next, 3 streets over and 3 streets over that way? Pretty soon you develop a community conversation about things that you all agree, or at least agree to discuss, that need to be addressed in your particular lived experience environment. You said, and once you do that, you find ways to plug into the precinct caucuses, ways to plug into the city conventions and state conventions, and to advance a platform and candidates who support the things you've identified and articulated. And you tell them, friend and foe alike, here's what I want, produce it, or you got to go. And don't be afraid to tell your friends that as well. That's what I hear you saying, James Joyce.
And let me say this. I'm going to answer Big Cheese here. It says, this is a new day. The Black community is no longer supporting the best of 2 evils. That's why Kamala Harris lost. Let me respond by saying this. Look what you got now. Look what's happening now. Just take a minute and look what's happening now. I understand Kamala Harris wasn't perfect. She wasn't, right? But Kamala Harris is not a convicted felon. Not once. Kamala Harris didn't defer. Kamala Harris doesn't have two impeachments.
Let me say, we make sure we say her name the right way too. It's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, right? Yeah.
And I'm saying it too fast, so please forgive me. Kamala doesn't have felonies on her record. Matter of fact, she's not a convicted felon at all. But this guy's a 34-time convicted felon, right? Kamala doesn't have 2 impeachments. Kamala hasn't reneged on paying his taxes. Kamala hasn't filed bankruptcy 17 times. And Kamala has not bankrupted a casino, nonetheless, a casino. But 77 million of you, 77 million people voted for that over a Black woman. Now, think about this for a second, Big Cheese, and all you others watching. If Kamala was president right now, would you be seeing this that we're seeing on the streets? No. It would not happen. Kamala is not a sexual predator. So this is what you got now, Big Cheese. I understand your position, because we disheartened, and we don't trust the Democratic Party. I don't either. I'm just being honest with you. I don't. Let me just say this. The next election coming up, we have Amy Klobuchar running for governor. I have to be honest with you. I do not like her. I don't. But I don't want this other guy who is a Donald Trump puppet to be there either. I will confront Amy on things that doesn't make sense. I will go to her and say, this doesn't make sense. We will check her and challenge her. But I'm not going to vote for the other guy to make my situation worse. At least I got a fighting chance with Amy. But I just got to be honest with you. So think about that for a second. Look what you got now. How about this?
I was thinking, as you're talking about, and sort of thinking about Big Cheese's comments about what the Democrats haven't done. I remember in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected, he invited the Black press of America to the White House. And we do this with all of the incumbents. We visit during Black Press Week in March. So it's a regular visit. And when we went, for the first time, they had a table laid out with maybe 100, 200 initiatives for the Black community in every element of life, from healthcare to civic engagement to economic development to education. And they arranged for us to meet with Arne Duncan, the head of the Department of Education, other departments, other secretaries. They wanted to communicate what the White House could do and should do for the people. I also remember that we here in Minnesota were host of the National NNPA convention that June, and we had invited leaders or representatives of the White House to come out and address the Black Press of America here downtown at the Radisson where we were convening. One of the people came from the Department of Commerce and who shared just amazing and wonderful stories, saying that they, the Obama administration, when they took power, didn't realize the expanse, the vastness of the federal treasury and its reach. And he said commerce, for example, had X billion in resources that it was deploying around the country and around the world, and Black people simply not plugged in, not aware. So what they did was attempt to explain the workings of government by documents that they released to the public and to the Black press. And we presented those stories in Inside News as often as we could and shared with them the things we're writing about their administration. So what I'm saying is that I saw a marked difference in the Obama and following the Biden White House's interest in and commitment to providing information to the Black community in the Black press. And that was absolutely not true. What we received from several Republican administrations was a heavy dose of contempt and arrogance. And starting with Ronald Reagan, who are you? Why should I waste my time talking to you? And it gives you the same feeling of somebody calling African countries S-hole countries, same kind of attitude. So I think we need to talk about the reality of how our people did handle and do handle engagement and power. And that's only the example from the top, from the presidency, but I think the principles ought to be applying at local, state, community levels as well. Engagement looks different, and that's kind of what you do, James Trice, is encourage people to stand up and to be active, to be present, to articulate their interests, their point of view, and to shape policy, take ownership of shaping the future of community and the world. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, exactly. The foundation of the work that I do is based in the belief, the axiomatic truth that we have far more power than we realize, right? And Toni Morrison, I think, said, the biggest mistake we make about power is to believe we don't have any, right? We have power to look at where we're at today. I mean, I'm not saying that it's checkmate, but it's definitely check. If I would coin a chess term, right? When you say checkmate, you got them. Mm-hmm. I say that we place this country now in check. We're just waiting for the checkmate. Mm-hmm. What I mean, this country, I mean, the situation, the system that's been trying to hold us captive, that brought us here. Now they don't know what to do with us, that we're here. And that's the whole point. And and they're losing control. They understand this, that the game is almost over. What you thought what you meant for evil, God is going to mean for good. What you mean to oppress us. And so we have made strides. We are the blueprint for every other struggle around the world, ladies and gentlemen. We are the blueprint, right? The magnitude of who we are scares them. It makes them afraid. The magnitude of who we are, because we weren't supposed to make it. When they say this is not working, people hear what I'm saying. What that meant is not working is we intended to keep them oppressed. We continue to subjugate them. We didn't intend for them. They did not intend for a Black man to ascend to the highest office of the land. That messed them up because they set the game already for them to win at every single level. And because we have made it through, the term that They thought we were, uh, you know, they thought they destroyed. They didn't realize. They thought they crushed us, but they didn't realize. They thought they buried us, but they didn't realize we were seeds. We
Hmm.
always make it through. We are resilient people. And I say this and I say it again. The magnitude of who we are makes them feel small, right? And Toni Morrison, if I would quote her again, she said, if the only way you can feel tall is for everybody else to be on their knees, you have a serious problem. They have a serious problem. And I'm not concerned. We struggle. That's our life. We struggle. And the struggle has made us, has forged us. Blackness was forged under whiteness. Who we
Hmm.
are as a people, man, I'm telling you, I thank God that he made me a black man. I do. And I do.
Hmm.
We struggle, but man,
It's an
they,
exciting time to be alive,
right? Oh my
and we
God.
know that we're shaping a future. And I tell people, when my daily prayer is one of gratitude, and I say, uh, closing my prayer, that victory is uh, at hand. Victory is imminent, and victory is inevitable.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
inevitable and imminent. So we're going to
Yes.
win.
We're
Yeah,
going
we
to
are
win.
winning and we're continuing. It doesn't mean we won't experience pain and disappointment, roadblocks, but we are winning. And as you said, we are the blueprint. Our story, our experience, our DNA is the blueprint for problem solving and for creativity on the planet. You know, and so I want to go back to Big Cheese. Big Cheese, thank you for having your point of view and accepting the or shooting back when we are critical of you, because that's what I'm doing, is being critical of you with a smile and thanking you for saying your point of view. You said that the only reason why Trump was elected is that Biden and Harris did such a horrible job. But then uh, Puppets 13 said they disagreed. How did the previous admin do a horrible job? You go on to say that the Black community demands tangibles. Let me put it up, tangibles, and that means reparations and a Black anti-hate crime bill. So the Democratic Party ignores that. So my question is, you know, from my point of view, we are the Democratic Party. And if I'm not raising that issue, it's not going to be raised. The responsibility is not them, it's me. There's no other here. This thing has to be something that we center and that is centered in us. That's my point of view. But that's a good way to segue. Uh, James, you've been involved in the reparations movement in a massive way. Jump into that, because one of the things I'm concerned about and I'm happy about, and I don't know the details of it yet, is that the city of St. Paul has formally adopted a process for looking at reparations for the descendants of the enslaved who lived in St. Paul. So, what about reparations? Talk about that.
Wow. Well, I wanted to respond to Big Cheese because I'm liking the
Go ahead.
conversation.
Go ahead.
If I could say, I want to challenge this, and this just came to me, Al, seriously, as we sitting here talking, this notion of an anti-Black bill. What is that? I mean, really, what is
An
that?
anti-hate crime bill, you mean?
Anti-hate, anti-Black hate bill is what
No,
he's saying,
it's
right?
a black anti-hate crime bill.
A Black hate crime bill, meaning
Yeah.
that a bill aimed at dealing with anti-Black hate,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is the foundation of this country.
Hmm.
So think about this, right?
Hmm.
Wouldn't the 13th Amendment be an anti-Black hate bill? Wouldn't the 14th Amendment be that? What I'm suggesting to you is this, because the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave us the right to citizenship. 15th Amendment gave us the right to vote and participate. Those are what those amendments did. And they were essentially to benefit us as Black people. That's what it was essentially do. And it was essentially supposed to be for anti-hate, because to stop them from trying to oppress us and continue to keep us enslaved, we have to pass a bill to say you can't do that. So what I'm saying to you is this. A bill only is a law or a set of rules or whatever to say you can't do something and you can, or whatever else. Give the rule of how you operate and how you interact, how you mingle, how you move about the cabin. right? That's what it is. But it doesn't change the hearts of people. It doesn't change the hearts of people. What I'm saying to you is this: that's not going to stop black people from being lynched. Anti-black hate bill is not going to stop police from killing us, because what happens is the bill doesn't change people's minds. The bills just put laws in place to say, because of what you think about me or feel about me, it makes no difference, because you're not going to be able to stop me, because there's a law in place that's going to hold you accountable. That doesn't make them now, oh, I love black people because they was held accountable. It's not going to make that happen. So if you're looking for an anti-black hate bill to happen in order to stop things from happening, it's not going to prevent hate from happening, because people want to hate, they're going to hate. And no bill will do it, because that's an emotional thing. That's a spiritual thing, right?
I think Big Cheese's touche is the comment on the screen now. What is an Asian anti-hate crime bill? So he's saying Biden, in response to the uptick in activities against the Asian community, succeeded in passing an Asian anti-hate crime bill. Has the same thing happen for the black community, is the question he's raising.
Right. And I would, again, my response to you, and I thank you, brother. This is not like a argument. This is just us conversing. I would submit to you that what is that anti-hate Asian hate bill is going to do? It's going to set rules and laws in place to keep people from oppressing them, right? So you can't discriminate against Asian people. And so it's still a bill of some laws and rules. It's not going to stop them. But I understand your point. Your point is at least make the gesture, because that's what it is. At least make the gesture to do it. Make the suggestion. Let it be there so people can see it written, right? That you can't hate on black people. And if you hate on black people, you're going to be held accountable, particularly if your hate results in action, right? That you're going to be held accountable. That's all it's going to do. But it's not going to stop them from hating us, hating black people in their soul. You understand? So I get your point. You said at least make that effort to put it forth.
The symbolism, the symbolic. The symbolic
symbolism of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so go back, James, to
reparations, right?
To reparations. Yeah. Talk about just sort of what the status is of that discussion. And again, if you are online, either at Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the YouTube channels, we'd love to have you in the conversation. You can get right in the conversation by dropping comments in the comment section, just like Big Cheese is doing and Puppix 13 did, and we thank them for theirs. And also, do us a favor, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the Insight News YouTube channel. That's where we're keeping our count, and also share and like the conversation. It means a lot for the algorithm. We're trying to grow our subscriber base. So Insight News, YouTube, that's where you do that. Go ahead, James.
Yes. So my experience or my interaction or participation in the reparations movement back in like 2000, 2001. Excuse me. In 2001, I was the chair of the Black United Front Minnesota chapter, National Black United Front. The National Black United Front was one of the one of the lead in this national reparations movement, along with Incober, and there were some others that I can't name right now. We took a lot of our cues from the book by Randall Robinson called The Debt. I have it right here. If you haven't read it, I'm asking you to read it. Randall Robinson, The Debt, What America Owes Blacks. He wrote a subsequent book, or a book after that, that said what we are ourselves, Black people. Anyway, and so in our meetings to move this reparations effort forward, the movement forward, we interacted with Randall, what's his name, Representative
Conyers.
What's his name?
John Conyers.
John Conyers, Michigan representative who wrote HR 40 and tried to move it every legislative cycle he could, and it wouldn't make it through through Congress, and so different states decided to see if they could pass it in their state. So we took HR 40 and presented it at the legislature back in I forget what year it was, and it didn't move. a couple of representatives were carrying it, but we couldn't get the votes to do it. But essentially, HR 40 is a bill that says that the United States will look at reparations, put together a committee, a group of folks to determine what this nation owes Black people so we could begin to pay reparations. Now, the argument that occurs, and let me just also say in 2002, we had a national reparations movement in New York. It was called Reparations Now. In 2002, it was the same day that at the same time that United Nations were meeting in New York, determine reparations. And this is the meeting that Bush and even John Powell, they walked out of that room when the issue of reparations came up. And what the United Nations said at that time, it said that
Colin Powell.
Colin Powell.
Mhm.
What the United Nations said at that time was that slavery was a crime against humanity. They determined that slavery was a crime against humanity back in 2002. And crimes against humanity have no statute of limitation. Now understand that. The United Nations said slavery was a crime against humanity. What that does then, and if crimes against humanity have no statute of limitation, that opens the door for us to continue to fight for reparations. So they can't not stop us from fighting. The issue was, how long will the fight go on? So that's one. Number two is the argument for reparations has been, what is reparations? There's been several states that have passed and cities passed reparation bill, giving people thousands, 2,000s, or 3,000s. What we're saying, what we said at Black United Front and Cobra and others, they said, no, a check is not reparations. Giving all of us a check is not going to do it, because what will happen is we get right back into this oppressive system that'll take our money. We'll spend back with them, right? And so what we're saying, what others are saying is reparations need to be systemic, right? There needs to be things like Black people don't pay any more taxes to this country. Free education for every African-American person, free education, and then free healthcare. At a minimum, those are the things that we were trying to push for, not just everybody get $2 or $3 million check in a system that we don't own anything. There's no institutions that we own that we could put it back into that will come back to us, because when we put it back into it, it's going to go to them. We end up spending. So we need those foundational things: free healthcare, free education, and to be tax-free, that we don't pay any taxes into this government. Those have been the things. So I haven't kept up with the reparation movement. I began to concentrate on other things. A few times I've been approached about this reparation bill they're going through the legislature. So I don't know what's in the bill. I know that when it was presented to me a few years ago, I read it and it had Native Americans in the bill. Now, not that I'm opposed to Native Americans receiving reparations, because America, the colonists done a number on the Native American community. It's reprehensible what they've done. It's inexcusable. And it's inexcusable what they've done to us. But the issue with reparations is it's a bill. Reparations, when we say reparations, we said what you owe the descendants of African slaves. That's what we're asking for, redress, when we say reparations. And when the bill had Native Americans in it, I said, hold on a second. And it looked like it was going to have mass support for it. I was like, okay, let me ask this question. Why didn't they support the reparations bill we were moving when it's just for African Americans? And so I had a problem with it, because reparations we haven't received anything. We nothing. This country has given us nothing for the harms that they've done to us. Have not paid us back, and we deserve it. They've paid Jews in some way. They beat the Chinese, the Japanese who were in internment camps, and even given. And again, I'm not opposed to this.
They gave money to the slave owners.
They've given money to the slave owners. I remember that. Native Americans are sovereign status. They have territory that they own, that control. We control nothing in this country. That's just real. We got entertainers. We got people who are rich, who are wealthy. All of this, who are making a lot of money, doing a lot of things. What do we own in this country? And that's the
We,
question that has to be asked. And so we get reparations, is it a check? And so, I would talk about the issue with why I believe that the reparations bill should still just center descendants of African slaves, as opposed to saying let's get a whole group of people to get reparations, because then we know what happens. We will still get left out as Black people, right?
Mhm.
There needs to be something specifically for us as Black folks when we talk about reparations. I don't know where the bill is moving at in this legislative session. I haven't read it. I haven't even talked to anybody for a couple of years about it, so I couldn't speak to what's in this bill. I would love to read it.
Mhm. So I keep thinking about how white people and consequently some of us say, oh, how can we figure out who's owed reparations? That the records are not there, and it's just be impossible. And then white people, of course, saying, whatever those people did generations ago, I didn't do it, so I shouldn't be held responsible for it. And then I listened to someone on one of the Africa channels a couple of days ago who was providing an analysis about colonialism, and that being a theft of wealth and property of African people by Europeans who decided in Germany in 1884-85 to carve up Africa and name it differently, and then proceed with guns and might to subdue, subjugate, and extract wealth from the continent. And so the speaker was saying, so someone breaks in your house and steals, your house, puts you out, and takes all the clothing and things, and then a generation passes, and a son sees some clothing that he knows was his father's clothing, and someone who's wearing the clothing may or may not know where it came from, but does that make it not the father's clothing that was stolen? And because time has gone by, does that eliminate the fact that a crime occurred? And so there's been a crime. There's been a crime. And in many ways, we have to say that we still are at the crime scene. And it's a
tyranny
question
continues.
of forensics and will and intent. And we know that the march of technology is such that we will have more tools to examine all of the facts and all of the consequences of arrangements and deals and contracts. But we know that there was a crime committed, and the crime was the theft of life and labor of African people, and the continued exploitation and the process of dehumanizing and creating systems of propagating a population. Husbandry is what they call it in the animal world, where our people were subjected to producing children so that they would be producing wealth for white people, not because they were humans that needed to be with each other. But as you said, Brother James, what was done to hurt will be rendered as a tool for our development, our freedom, and our movement towards being our best selves as human beings. And we actually, again, in that spirit, must walk in the idea of ourselves being the blueprint for freedom and for justice in the future. Let me jump quickly, two more things before we close out here, maybe one. Any reflections on surge, the surge? My notes say that for the second time in a week, a federal judge has found the Trump administration in civil contempt regarding the handling of immigration cases. And the latest ruling involves the unlawful transfer of a detainee to Texas against a do not transfer order. So what does that mean? How audacious and bold is our government that it breaks the law in maintaining its upholding the law? What about that?
Wow, that's a great question, Al, because I'm trying to figure out when haven't they broken the law?
Right.
And then when haven't they broken?
There's also a note about a new whistleblower, a former ICE official named Ryan Schwank has come forward as a whistleblower, alleging that recruits for ICE were instructed to enter homes without judicial warrants during the ongoing crackdown in the Twin Cities. And final note on that, and we'll close on this. Some local labor leaders are reporting that nearly 100,000 hospitality jobs were lost over the past year due to the chilling effect of immigration enforcement. And along with that, the Minnesota small businesses are reporting that they've lost $81 million in revenue in January of 2026 alone. How do you wrap your head around that? Maybe just a closing comment.
Well, I'm closing it. Okay, I have a few seconds. I think what we all should do as Black folk, particularly people of color, those who are oppressed, how we get through this. Think about this as we end. Think about, how am I going to be a resource for common well-being today? How am I going to be a resource for common well-being, to take care of each other, support each other, to love each other? We're not a monolith, but we all have well-being. How are we going to be a resource for somebody else's, for our well-being today? Think about that and do that and be that resource, because we're going to need each other during this time. We cannot walk this journey alone. We're never meant to do this alone. And so we need one another, and we need the support of each other. Let's do that.
Let me shout out David Rabb, Colonel David Rabb, retired soldier, who said reparations should be tied to moral injuries, and asked us to look up the concept moral injury. He and I have worked together. He's been a participant in this show. And David, I'm going to reach out to you, because we should try to, once again, get Black men and women who have served in uniform to carry forth the conversation about what we are owed, and not just pensions, but what we're owed in the spirit of addressing the moral injury. And how do we tie that to this reparation? So David, I'll be calling you to see. And let me say to those who are listening again, if you are a military person, I happen to be a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. I served
Congratulations.
in 1968,
Good for you, man.
68 live active duty. And I've got stories, about what it meant to be a 20-year-old, 18-year-old in the military, serving the country, and the ambivalences I had about that. I'm glad I did. It's part of my growing up. But I had questions then, I have questions now. And I'd love to have a conversation, to be sitting with other men and women who have served in the government, in the armed services, and who've served as police and fire and other first responders. I think we should have a conversation about what's going on in the country, what our role has been. And one of the things that I always think about when I think about military people, David, is that, we know that when our soldiers came back after World War I, they had the Yellow Spring, James, where they had mass riots against Black communities to put Black people back in their place, because they were coming back from Europe and back from a sense of freedom and supporting this idea of freedom. And they wanted to have that freedom here. The Klan and supremacist white ideologues and policymakers continue to rob and devalue Black life. Lynchings skyrocketed, right? That happened after World War II as well. But in both cases and in the situations that followed each, I think Black men and women returning to civilian life have always pushed the needle towards our freedom better, because there's been a conscientious determination that we're not going to accept the stuff that we went and died for. We're not going to accept the mistreatment and the failure of this country to recognize that we have defended it while it is destroying us. That contradiction cannot stand. Those are my
Right.
thoughts. So to any veterans, if you know some veterans that have served, reach out to me, send me a note, and we'll put together a couple of these programs focused on creating a space for veterans to talk. David Rabb, we're leaning on you to help me make this happen. But anybody, and anybody else can join as well, even if you didn't wear Joyce Jones is saying, some people didn't wear uniforms, but they should be here as well. Well, Marnie Kirkman, thank you for your comments and your note of appreciation. Thanks to all who are listening. James, brother, thanks. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversation, and we'll keep this going. I'm Al McFarland. We'll see you next time.